Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Raider roster report. This is Raider Sparks coming at you with another episode today, and I think we're going to take a look at some of the issues facing the Raiders right now, as far as the salary cap goes, and as far as some tough decisions that need to be made by the Raiders. Obviously, free agency has slowed down. There's probably going to be sort of a third wave coming soon, but for the Raiders, there's some very difficult decisions to be made. And we'll kind of get into it. But first, I want to say thanks to everybody for subscribing. I'm two away from 300 right now. So, everybody, if you could, please hit the subscribe button and share the video, get it out. More importantly, hit the like button if you like it. And then also make comments. Love to hear what Raider Nation has to say about the team, kind of what everybody's thinking out there about the draft picks, free agency, current players on the team, that kind of thing. It's always good to hear what Raider Nation has to say. So, yeah, if you got something you want to add to the comments, please do. It's been kind of fun going back and forth with everybody. But anyways, yeah, let's kind of get into the Raiders. Hopefully, not too long of a video today, but there are some really difficult choices, and I think that's why you're seeing right now kind of that slowdown in free agency, especially for the Raiders. And so right now, over the cap has us at 6.6 million available. We do have a draft projection by Sportrack at 4.2, so that only leaves us 2.4 million really available right now. If you want to consider the draft class, yes, we do have 19.7 coming after June 1st, so there is that option. And I do believe we could still sign the players and have a June 1st start date. The only thing I don't know is if those players that we sign on under that circumstance, if they could participate in the upcoming mini camps and workouts and things like that. I think they can, just because the opposite is true. Corey Littleton already signed, so I think we would be able to do that. I'm just not sure of the rule on that, so that would be sort of the only hiccup there. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with that. Then I sort of wanted to look at like how we could free up more money, and I went to over the cap as well and kind of look at the players that we could either cut or extend, and to free up some money, and just kind of see what that would look like. So I just wanted to break that down. So Carr, if we did extension, looks like all signs are pointing that we are going to do that extension. We save about 15 million this year. Waller, we could do a restructure. It would save 2.7, or we could do an extension and save 4.3, or we could cut or trade him. Cut won't happen, but if we trade him, we save about 7 million. So actually, it's a little under, depending on which site you look at. Over the cap has a little under 7, a little over on Sport Tracks. I'm not sure. There's some bonuses in there or something like that. Then we could look at Denzel Good. If we went ahead and extended, we save 2 million. If we cut him, we save 3.7 million. Foss Moro, if we cut him, we save 2.5 million. If we extend him, 1.2 million. So that so those numbers are true savings. There's a very few players we could actually stand to get that savings. Rock Sin, we could extend him and save 1.2. We're not going to cut him, so we can save 1.2 for him. And then Levitt, we can cut him, save 2.4, or extend him and save 1.1. If we did a lot of those moves, we could save up to about 36 million. So yeah, so there's some savings there to go. Bars, we could cut him and save 1.4. A lot of guys you could extend, but it just doesn't impact anything, because they would then fall below the top 51. Another guy would come up and take his place. It really doesn't make any difference. But if you want to look at the big impacts, Waller, Renfrow, and Carr, doing their extensions is about $20.5 million. So if we do that, definitely frees up the money right away. Give us a chance to go sign some other guys. So signing guys this year isn't really the issue. We have the money to do it. It's actually the next year. So, and then extending these guys is a big part of that. So, giving Waller or Renfrow more money, Waller is not such an issue if you just guarantee what he already has. That's not so much the issue, but his more thing is he wants more money. So and more money going forward. Renfrow is going to be a higher contract next year, and obviously Carr. But I went ahead and took a look, and just to kind of see where we're at for 2023, and just looked at the 20 players that we have that would actually be playing. I excluded Littleton and Drake. Keep in mind, because Drake's dead money that's already moved forward. Littleton's on the books as dead money, but soon Littleton and Nassib, even though we're saving 19.7 this year, that 19.7 is going to be dead money next year. So that's a big amount of money. And I kind of wanted to see where the salary cap would be, and I saw some different reports, but I think the most consistent I saw was 225 million. So let's just go with that for now. For 2023, we'd have Adams at 30.5. Crosby at 20.5, Jones 19.4, Miller 17.6, Waller if it stands at 7. See, Andre James 5.4, Bly Nichols 4.3, Carlson 4.2, Leatherwood 3.9. And it kind of starts to go down into the smaller numbers. But in all, there's 20 players that are signed that would actually be playing. That's 129.5 million. That's 57.5 for the salary cap if it's at 225 million. So that's only 20 players, and that already ties up $57.5 million, or 57.5% of the 2023 projected salary cap, and that's without Carr in there, and that's without Littleton and Nazib's nearly 20 million dead money. So when we start talking about giving extensions to or more money to Jake or Waller, a high extension to Renfrow, then obviously we have those other guys that are coming up on their 5th-year options, Abrams and Jacobs, so, and obviously Farrell. So there's some huge decisions right now. So it is time to get into the big question I really wanted to ask today, and that is, a couple things. Waller, what do we do with Darren Waller? Do we keep him on his current contract? Do we extend him, give him some more money and a longer contract, or do we go ahead and trade him? So it's sort of a dilemma right now because this team needs draft picks. It needs draft picks badly because what I just listed out for 2023, we need draft picks this year to be able to come in and not necessarily play right away, but to be ready for the following year because we're not going to have a ton of money to throw around. And I should mention too that I think this is why we're seeing a slowdown in contracts for like Gilmore and Tyrann Mathieu, because these decisions need to be made as far as, because those guys, we can sign them for 1 year, but those guys want multi-year deals, and so those multi-year deals tie back into what we've already done and what we might do with some of these other players moving forward, because I just said how much we have already. We have Carr to go, and then so if you throw in a Gilmore or Matthews, not so much for this year, but next is where the issue becomes. And so, do you trade Darren Waller? Is a huge question. I think this one is, of all the players, I think this one here is the most likely to happen because, first of all, if I go from the top, if I'm an owner and the draft is in Vegas, I want a first round pick regardless of the issues. And with the next 3 players I'll talk about, Waller included, it's difficult because he's a Raider. Like, yes, he was on the practice squad for the Ravens. Who cares? He had his career as a Raider. He's a productive player. He's made a Pro Bowl. He has that. So he's a top end player at his position, and he's also an affordable contract given his talent. So that's a tough decision to make. But that's also why he's potentially tradable for a first round pick or definitely a second round pick. And so, given where we're at with the Raiders, knowing that we need not so much draft picks for this coming year, but for the following year to fill in those gaps for the free agency, do you make this move now? And as an owner, do you say, okay, yeah, he's a top player, but I want that PR for the draft? And so that's a difficult decision to make, and one that the Raiders are probably wrestling with right now. And also, to free up that $7 million this year, next year to sign a Gilmore or a Tyrann Mathieu. I mean, think about it. Would you want to have a Darren Waller for next year, or would you want to have Tyrann Mathieu, a first round pick? And that's kind of the choice, right? So that's tough. Think about that as a Raider fan. What's better, Tyrann Mathieu, or and a first round pick, or Waller? That's kind of where you're at, because let's face it, if we bring on Tyrann Mathieu, we're going to be trading Abrams for anything, right? Or cutting him, but we'll be trading him for like a 7th round pick if we can get it, right? 6th round pick, whatever we can get. Same thing with Trayvon and Mullen and Gilmore, right? If we bring in Gilmore, we're trading Trayvon Mullen for anything we can get, right? So that's kind of the trade off on those guys. I hate to say that because they're all true Raiders, but I mean that's kind of the reality of it. If we're not going to go big for those guys, then those guys are going to stay on the team, right? You know, I don't think we trade them for like just to get a 6th or 7th round pick. But if we bring on a high price free agent, then yeah, that's the move to make. The next guy to make is another tough call. Is Josh Jacobs is a likely trade possibility too because um, I know he's a Raider and he's a Pro Bowler too. So all these guys I'm talking about are really good players. They're tops of their fields, but he's coming up on the decision of to give him the 5th-year option, which is coming in like what 8 or 9 million. And as I just read out, who are um, you know the 8 or 9 million we're going to spend. We've already kind of committed so much already to the cap next year. Can we afford it? And so, one thing I think about too with Darren Waller is think about the Patriots. Sorry to bounce around on you a little bit, but think about the Patriots tight ends over the years. I mean, Gronk, he's an all-around good blocker, good receiver. They had Hernandez, who's more of a pass catcher, but then they had guys like Ben Watson, Daniel Graham, Christian Foria. Those are all, yes, they did catch touchdowns. Yes, they did catch, but they're blockers as well. And so part of the Darren Waller conversation is Foss Moro. Do you keep him? Is he that all around tight end? I know you brought in Hollister to be one of those types of tight ends, but this is kind of the way the offense I think is going. And so if you look at history says that probably Waller is not the guy. Not that he's not talented, not that they don't want him, but their offense runs a little differently than having a wide receiver type of tight end. They usually have more well-rounded tight ends in their offense. But also, do you keep Fossmoro? He's a cut him. It saves 2.5. So, I mean, if you make a decision on Waller to trade him or whatever, yeah, you keep Foster. If you're going to keep Waller and you have Hollister, you have Bauer too, do you keep Foster? Because there's a lot of talented receiver or tight ends in this draft. So if you haven't seen my tight end video, please go check it out. And please share with what your thoughts are. Like, share, subscribe, do all those cool things with the video, but also add comments. Want to hear what you guys are thinking. So these are the tough questions the Raiders are facing. And another tough question is Josh Jacobs. I mean, you look over the years for the Patriots, I mean, they don't have like top end running backs, right? They don't pay the running backs often. And I said in a video way earlier that this probably doesn't look good for Jacobs because of the Patriots' history. So if you just look at their history and what they've done in the past and see what they're doing in the future. So, and they already brought in one of their guys already, and a couple and a me or two. So I'm not saying that we don't want Jacobs. I want Jacobs on this team. That is one of my favorite players on the team. Just financially, it's tough. And if you want to look at trade value, if you go into that 4th year, you have no trade value. He becomes a free agent. You're going to let him walk. So do you actually get something for him? Now's the time to do it. If you want draft capital, now is the time to move him. So that decision needs to be made pretty soon before the draft, obviously. And we'll see what happens with that. I hope he stays on the team, but I mean, just keep that in mind. And another tough one is also Hunter Renfrow. Again, another Pro Bowler. All three of these guys I just talked about, they're all Pro Bowl players. They've all made a Pro Bowl in their short careers, and so they're very good players. And the chemistry with Carr is exceptional. The only problem is Hunter Renfrow. The reports are is 10 to 12 million is his market. I don't know if he gets that, but that's kind of what it's looking like. And given what I've already pointed out, in 20 players, we're already at 57.5% of the projected cap without Carr's number, and that's without the dead money, 20 million of Littleton and Nassib. Do we have 10 to 12 million dollars to pay a slot cornerback? So my opinion is of all three of these guys, the guy that stays is Hunter Renfrow because although I'm not sure what these guys made relative to the salary cap then, but look at the Patriots offense, how it's operated. Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, and there's a whole list of other slot receivers. But that's really the bread and butter of the offense is the slot type receiver that they've had. And so, and again, with Devontae Adams and now so many targets are going to go to him. How many targets are going to go to a slot receiver? How many targets are going to go to a pass catching tight end like Darren Waller? And then obviously the running game in this offense is going to be huge. So as they're transitioning to this new offense, you got to think what's the most value here. Is it a slot receiver? Is it a bell cow running back when they usually use running back by committee? Or is it a pass catching tight end when they usually use more well-rounded, and if not even default to more of a blocking sort of tight end. And so if you just look at Patriot history, these are the decisions that have to happen. Now, these are the tough decisions. I mean, the other decisions that were made, cutting Kowalski, cutting Nassib, cutting Littleton, those are easy decisions. And the rest of free agency, yes, I'm not talking about the valuing the talent. Those are all tough decisions. But what I'm talking about is the business side of it is just spending money, right? You identify the talent, you go out and spend the money, you cut the players, especially from a PR standpoint, that aren't producing to the fans. So that was easy. But now the tough decisions are, I think, these three guys. There's some other tough ones like, Good. I think it comes down to health with him. I would extend him just to save the $2 million, right? That's kind of what I would do if he's healthy. Foss Moro, I think there's enough there to work with. There's some other young guys, but they don't really move the needle like a Meek and Brian Edwards. Do nothing to the salary cap. Yeah, you can cut them and have very little dead money, but it does nothing to the cap because they're so close to uh, the next 51 guy coming up, right? That it really doesn't affect the equation much at all. And so really the guys I listed out are really the top guys for extensions that you can save a little bit. The main three are obviously Waller, Renfrow, and Carr. Getting those guys done. Obviously, we have the nearly $20 million coming up that we can spend. And again, the issue isn't this year's money. We have money to go out and sign whoever we want right now. Relatively speaking, right? We can pretty much go do what we need to do. It's just giving these guys extensions is the question. Trading these guys is the question. And keeping an eye on that 2023 salary cap is hugely important. I mean, if you add in, if you just add in Carr, if Carr, let's say it's team friendly, like 35 million. That's 165 million. So that puts us up to 73% of the cap if it's at 225 million just by doing Carr's extension at 35 million. So yeah, there's that, and then if you add in, so if you do Carr at 35 and then you add in the 20 million dead, that puts us up to 82% of the cap for Littleton and Nassib, the dead money for next year. So that is a lot of money tied up right there. And then if you start talking about getting Renfrow more money, Waller more money. And I did a video about this a while ago. I think a realistic shot is to mirror Carr's extension with Adams, so you don't take such a big hit. And my thought was the Carr's thing is going to come, but they might do it now, but do it post 6/1, June 1st, to use some of Littleton and Nassib's money this year for Carr's. That way he takes a bigger hit this year is what I would do, and then have it drop down for next year when Adams kicks in at 30 million. Carr would dip back down and then kind of ride the wave and just kind of mirror it with Adams. And obviously you're going to have the out clause with Adams for sure. But I would use some of that $20 million for these extensions, whether it's Carr or combine Waller and Renfrow or however you want to do that. But I would use some of that money this year to lower the salary cap for these players next year when some of these other guys hit the books, to kind of make a little bit of a wave chart or whatever to do that. So I think that's a realistic possibility, and I think that's why maybe we haven't gone out and spent or signed some of these other guys. I know the reports are that we've issued Matthews a contract, but who knows if it's true or not, and who knows what that contract is. And it may be just a one-year contract, right? That might be the sticking point, because we do have the money. We can free up the money if we want to. But again, it's all about a lot of this has to do with next year's salary cap. And I think some of it has to do, honestly, with the draft being in Vegas. And from an owner standpoint, I would want draft picks, right? I would want more draft picks, especially a first round or a second round pick, if I can get them. So anyways, let me know your thoughts, comments. Hope you liked the video. Please share, subscribe. We got a lot of money already tied up for next year. Obviously, we just kind of went through the numbers. If we do Carr, I've never done that before. If we do Carr and then Nassib and Littleton's dead money hits, but we do Carr at 35 million next year as a cap hit, that's 82% of the projected salary cap right there. And that would only be with 21 players. It'd be 31 more player or 30 players to go just to reach the top 51, and we'd only have about less than 20% of the salary cap space to do it. So anyways, that's kind of where we got. The Raiders have a lot of tough decisions coming up. Let's hope. So far, they've made a lot of the best decisions for the team, and let's keep it going and get us into the Super Bowl this year or next. So that's all I got. Please like, share, subscribe, add comments, and we'll talk to you next time.